one of my favorite pieces of music to one of my favorite poets, not just in North Shore, but in general, Dana Grove.
Actually not a poem, but it's a piece I wrote about my grandfather called Fragments. The rubber band ball was always the first thing I looked for on Friday afternoons. Those ephemeral Fridays when there was no nursery and take your daughter to work day expired after the 6th week of your child drawing hearts and stars in the corner of an office lined in folders and briefs. It was my father's idea. Take her to my parents, they'll watch her, plus they have nothing better to do. And thus began my afternoons of drinking coffee from a pink and orange elephant mug. Boy, did I feel like a grown-up. We would sit, my grandmother and I, at the white kitchen table with our respective drinks, coffee and a dash of milk for her, milk and a dash of coffee for me, and watch Bananas in Pajamas while the cigarette smoke stained my clothes and childhood. She tells the story at every single family event of how I would hide under the table with a box of Cheerios and would say, "Go outside and smoke, Safta." And then she tells a story I feel honored. Even at such a young age, I had a sense of humor that lightened her eyes. But I'd be lying if I said that was all I looked forward to. No, while lazing around with my grandmother in the nightgown she refused to change out of was entertaining, the real treat of Fridays at the Groves was Morris. Morris rode with a ridiculous toupee that sat like a rat upon his head and convinced no one of his hairy growth. "Look, Dana, it's a miracle," he'd say. And even at 3, I knew the best thing to do was nod and say, I don't know exactly what it was about those visits that caused them to stay with me for so long. Maybe it was setting the table for Friday night dinner with him, fork on the left side, knife and spoon on the right, standing on one of those antique vacuums as he cleaned the carpets in the living room. Maybe it was coloring pictures at that white kitchen table with him. It was always us, my pictures, he and I holding hands, with a rainbow in the background, of course, I was 3. Maybe it was sitting with him in his office as he graded papers while smoking his pipe. Is it strange that I remember his smell? The hospital visits tore at me. He fell down a flight of stairs, and instead of being grateful for his being alive, I was scared to look at his indented forehead. When we played charades to pass the time, a game which I don't think he fully understood, I was always the one who had to guess, for along with his weakened bones and tired limbs, he had lost his speech. "Dana, we have something to tell you," my mother whispered one Saturday night as we sat on the futon in our tiny apartment about a year after the incident. "Why are you crying, Mommy?" I replied. I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. It was about 12 years later that I re-entered my Friday afternoon world. I had been to the house since, but I could not venture into his office. I could not allow myself to turn my fingers over his closet lined with mirrors, where I would hide in our weekly games of hide and seek. And then one day, curiosity and guilt, I guess, got the better of me. It was a Friday. I entered his office, immediately closed the door behind me, and inhaled. The tobacco this time was blended with dust and infrequent visits. I sat at his desk and searched for the culprit, the pipe that no one would dare take from his sanctuary. And then I saw it, what I had been searching for during every single visit since his death. The rubber band ball that was our keepsake, our figurine, our link to one another. "I can't believe you hid it in here," I said out loud, where our toy had been kept in the back of the kitchen, next to the remote control and the glass cookie jar filled with paper clips. I removed a single green, our favorite color, rubber band from our ball and placed it upon my wrist. I could not take the entire thing with me. It belonged in his office, in his desk, in my memory. So instead, I removed a single piece, one band from the ball that would forever remind me of the man who told me how to set the table. It was a Friday.
We're going to take a short break now. I really like, during this break, for everyone, if you can, just take a quick look at Bradley Razinski's photography and Harlow Anzada's artwork. In the past, we've had a lot of different students, have 1 or 2 pieces, but I kind of like this better because you can actually get a feel for 2 personalities and get a better idea of 2 artists at work. So, get a feel for these two artists, have a donut or two, and I want everyone to think of a poem that could actually be accompanied by the sound of clinking change in a vending machine. Next year's goes. I think that would be really cool. All right. Wonderful. All right, so we'll be back in, let's just say 8 o'clock.